Today on the show, I'm joined by the one and only Shelley Wade. We're going to talk about sandwiches, potato chips, heavy drug use, and ASMR. Did I whisper right?
Yes, you did.
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So you're here, one and only Shelley Wade, hangrily eating chips.
So good. Oh my God. You know, the other day was... Sorry.
No. This is the part where you can tell we're professional broadcasters. I'm chewing gum. You're crunching chips. Hi.
You're so good. You know, the other day was National Potato Chip Day.
Was it?
And everyone was like all excited because it was Pie Day. It was actually National Potato Chip Day. I was more excited about that one. But I am eating the Lay's sour cream and onion flavored. And I haven't had these in so long. They're so good. And I'm not even getting paid to say that. It's really good. Hey, maybe they'll send me a free box of them, huh?
Not if they're listening to this show.
Oh my God, I didn't realize I was so hungry.
Do you like potato chips in your sandwich?
No, I can't say that I don't, but I can say that I've never tried them. I don't know why. I just don't want to have chips in my... When I see people doing the whole, we're going to have... Oh God, this is big here in California. They would have the fries and the burritos and all that.
I don't get the fries and the burrito things.
No, I don't. Well, I can eat the chips on the side of the sandwich. I don't need them in the sandwich.
So, okay, let's just rewind to the fries and the burrito thing. Because, like, everyone was like, oh, man, have you gotten Cali style? I'm like, what's that? And they make it like it's their great contribution to world cuisine.
To the culinary world.
French fries in a burrito. Oh, you can tell this is a stoner culture. It's like completely, yeah. No, what's interesting is when I grew up in England, used to go to the kebab shops. And kebab shops were like, they were like Greek food. You know, they had that big rack of greasy mystery meat that they would cut slices off of, and they'd put that in pita pockets and stuff like that. But if you were vegetarian like I was when I was a kid, they used to make...
You grew up a vegetarian?
I grew up a vegan.
Wow.
Yeah, I was hardcore.
Because of your parents? They made you a vegan, or you decided...
They didn't...
You're one of those kids that you decided, I'm not going to eat meat.
No, they didn't make me... My mom didn't make me a vegan, but I think she sort of encouraged it. And honestly, I became a vegetarian in... like probably the 5th or 6th grade. And there's a reason for that. Vanity. Like when I was a kid, I was breaking out and you're starting to notice girls and you want to go talk to them. And like, I remember one of my best friends said to me, he came up to me one day and he started like doing this, like making little pointing movements at my face. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, it's like counting stars.
Oh my God, kids are so mean.
So mean. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, it's like someone held a spaghetti colander over your face with a can of red spray paint.
No!
Yeah. I was like, I woke up with zits one morning. Puberty hit me and hit me hard, and I had zits. And he was like, oh my gosh. And my mom had recommended to me, she's like, you know why you're getting all those zits? I was like, no, why? And she's like, well, because you eat red meat. And I was like, really, you think? And she's like, yeah, all that excess grease has to come out somewhere through your pores. No science whatsoever to this argument, I'm sure.
But mothers know best.
But I cut out red meat and the acne went away.
So wait, you mean to tell me, AD, everybody's paying all this money for what are those commercials? The teens are using
like it's not
it starts with a P, doesn't it? Doesn't it start with a P?
I don't know. But like there's that one Asian,
and all they have to do is not eat red meat. Is that it?
That's what, like that one Asian kid from that commercial who goes, "My skin is glowing." Like, you know the kid I'm talking about?
Yes.
What's it? Proactive.
That's what it is. Yes.
Yeah.
So people are spending all this money on Proactive when all they have to do is cut out the beef. Is that it?
Oh, everyone's different, and everybody's sort of body chemistry is different. So it's far be it from me to say that like if you have problem skin, eating red meat's going to clear it up. But in my case, as a child, it did.
It worked.
So, you give a child a puberty-stricken boy whose hormones are absolutely carbonated the ability to have his acne go away so he doesn't feel weird talking to girls. I took that over a hamburger any day. And then from there on in, I kind of whittled out different types of meat. And I thought, maybe I'll be vegetarian. And I was vegetarian. And then I realized, like, to this day, I'm still pretty much lactose intolerant. Like, if I eat a bowl of ice cream, it's lights out. I gotta, like, I can't go places, do stuff. I know I'm going to be gripping my stomach in pain.
It depends. Like, for me, like, I can eat some ice cream and I'm amazing, and one day I'll eat some and my stomach is churning. I certainly don't like drink regular like milk anymore if I'm doing cereal, which isn't often, but if I do have cereal, I'll get that lactate.
Oh, you get the lactate
Yeah,
stuff?
just because I don't want to risk my stomach churning like that.
Don't you think it's insane? We were actually talking about this on this show yesterday. Don't you think it's insane how much food has changed from the time when we were kids? I mean, that wasn't that long ago,
crazy,
but like,
right?
think about how you had a glass of milk forced on you. And like, who has a glass of milk now? Like, I wouldn't, like, the only time I have milk is in coffee or on cereal, and I can't.
Yeah.
And occasionally, when I'm eating one of those sandwiches, I do like to dunk it in milk, but I would never.
What sandwich?
Oh, no, it's got to be like a sweet sandwich, like a peanut butter and honey, peanut butter
Oh,
and...
okay. I thought you were talking about a regular meat sandwich and milk.
Yeah.
I'm like,
oh, yeah, no, this is not good. Those are the ones that you put the potato chips in.
Thanks for clarifying.
But yeah, hey, while you're being a radio professional, get up closer on that microphone.
Oh, sorry. Who says I'm a radio professional?
Well, not the bag of chips you were eating when you went on the air, but I'm chewing gum. I've got no excuse. But like, here's the thing about like all that stuff. I cut out red meat, and then I cut out normal meat, like white meat, and then I had fish for a little bit, and then I just gradually whittled it out of my diet at my mom's encouragement, because she thought it would be pretty cool if I was a vegetarian. And then I wasn't really eating dairy because it really got to my stomach, and still does. But now I just kind of don't care.
Yeah. I mean, in defense of all the red meat eating people, I mean, on a daily basis, people talk about how gorgeous they think my skin is. And that's not even me saying it. It's like people tell me that all the time.
Here's the thing. I wouldn't notice someone's skin unless it was really bad or really good. And you have beautiful skin.
Thank you.
You deserve to be like that Asian kid in the Proactive commercial where you walk in and go,
glowing.
My skin is glowing.
But I do eat red meat. Not a lot, but sometimes I want a good steak or I want a burger, which again, isn't often. I think I might have red meat like maybe once every couple of months, but I do eat it. And I don't know, when I eat it, I'll have to pay attention to see if my skin breaks out. This will be a good thing to pay attention to.
Well, it's funny. Like I remember like the same kid that made fun of me for having all those zits. I stopped eating meat. My zits went away and he started breaking out immediately.
Did you pick on him?
I mean, he was my best friend, so we picked on each other.
Okay.
I wasn't as merciless to him as he was to me. He had a mean streak in him that I never had.
Yeah.
But he used to be able to predict when he was going to get zits. It was the weirdest thing. How did we start the show talking about this? I don't know. But he used to be like, I'm going to have zits on my chin tomorrow. Like, how do you know? He's like, because I'm eating Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I was like... What if you just, make really certain that you wipe your chin off afterwards? He's like, it's not that. He's like, I eat KFC, I get a zit on my chin. And
interesting.
Shore is shooting. The next day, he did. Or Shore is popping.
Real radio. 104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So yeah, I stopped eating meat, and I was actually vegan for like 12 years. And
12? Jeez Louise.
And it's funny because I was vegan when it meant something to be vegan. Now it's super easy. Now it's like...
Why doesn't it mean anything?
Well, because it's so easy now. Like, it really is. Everybody knows what vegan entails. Most menus have vegan options. They identify what's vegan. I was a kid in a band on tour, restricted to mostly eating at Denny's and Cracker Barrel in the middle of nowhere. You try being a vegan and doing that. You know what I ate? A lot of toast and a lot of house salads. Like, I would get head rushes because I was anemic and stuff. And like,
let me ask you, did your band members, did they think you were lame?
No, they were all vegetarian or vegan as well.
Wait, you were in a vegan rock band?
Well, we weren't all vegan. Like the guitar player ate meat, but he mostly stuck with vegetarian food when his wife was around because she was a vegetarian. And like, occasionally when he would have a giant steak dinner, he'd be like, "No need to tell the wife about this, don't you know?" And He's like, back to my normal vegetarian diet right after this half a cow. Like, he would eat so much meat and then, like, you know, pretend he didn't when he got home.
Interesting.
He actually lives in Orlando where this show airs. I hope I didn't just drop him in it. But so, like, the one guy, he ate meat, but not really. Mm-hmm. Then I was vegetarian, or I was vegan. Our tour manager was vegetarian. Our drummer, one drummer was vegetarian. The next one, he was a meat-eating carnivore. He ate everything. But then we had our bass player had like these gut intestinal difficulties or something like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know what led him to this, but you ever heard of food combining?
Never in my whole life.
Because I was on tour with this guy for 3 years, I learned all about food combining in a way that I never wanted to know. And it was like this idea that if you eat certain foods, digest faster than others. And there might be some science to this. I don't know. I've never really tried it. But the idea is like, if you eat a burger, well, that's going to digest slower than, say, an apple. So you don't ever want to eat an fruit on top of a burger, because that's just going to sit in your stomach, putrefying, while the burger takes time to digest. And he used to swear by it, and he said it really helped all of his gut problems. And so, like, it meant that he couldn't combine starches and proteins and all this stuff. Anyways,
what would you combine? What was proper to combine?
Oh, man, it was really complicated, and it was difficult to be him. Mm-hmm. But, like, he had no sense of who he was or where he was, because I swear to gosh, we would walk into, like, a Denny's at 2 a.m., in Topeka, Kansas, and he ate fish. He didn't eat meat, he didn't eat chicken, but he ate fish.
He was a pescatarian.
Right. And he would introduce himself as that to the Denny's waitress at 2 a.m., where he'd be like, she'd like, what would you like? He's like, I'm a pescatarian food combiner. What do you recommend? And they would be like, look at him like he was from a different planet. And like, I was like, did you just tell this poor waitress at a Denny's that you're a pescatarian food combiner? And he was like, yes, what of it? And he would complain about like the food that we got. Like, we would eat salad, and he'd be like, if I see another iceberg lettuce, I'm going to go mad. Would it kill them for a little radicchio or romaine? I was like, yeah, it's freaking Denny's, dude. Live in the now. Like,
you guys were an interesting band.
Oh, we were difficult. Like, record labels would want to take us out for dinner, and they would never know where to go and like what to do.
I mean, you guys were in a band. You're supposed to like partying and debauchery, and
we were,
and like bad eating and drinking, and you don't even drink.
No.
It's like, what kind of band were you guys?
I drank back then, but very sporadically. Like
people hung out with you guys expecting a party, and you guys were, we're eating lettuce.
Well, like, I mean, we did party, but like, I would only do that if we had like a day off. And then I quit.
Okay, wait, Eddie. Party. I'm throwing up the air quotes. What did partying consist of with your band?
For me? Well, in the band?
Yeah, I want to know what your partying was. What did you guys consider parties?
No. I mean, look, I grew up in England, and in England it was a whole different thing. Your record label rep was expected to provide the drugs. Like here, if you're in a band and you're in America, you did drugs, you kept it quiet. Whereas, like, honestly, when we got our first real music business manager, he was like, right, who does what drugs? You know, so I know what to get for after the show. Like, honestly, we had sort of like, you know, and I'm not going to list out the party favors that were made available to us. But when I say party,
let me tell you the funny twist on this one. I was trying to, like, I don't know, pick on you guys for not partying right. And then you turned it around and went hardcore and talked about drugs. And I'm like, I'm the lame one. No.
Right. Well, it's funny
Never
because
did drugs.
We're like, well, I mean, but it was the giant and stupid contradiction. Like, I'm vegan. I don't eat any of that. I'm a pescatarian food combiner. I couldn't possibly do that. A boatload of Class A drugs. Why not then?
Wow.
Let's shovel it in, shall we? And it was just like...
Interesting.
Yeah, and it was and I remember somebody pointed this out to me. Like, I don't even want to say, like, the craziest drug I ever did was a pretty crazy one, and this was going back to when I was a teenager. But and I did it by accident. I did not know what I was doing, and I was like, whoa, I can't ever do that again. I see why people get immediately addicted, and it costs them their lives when that happens. And it's one of those things where I was kind of blitzed to begin with, and then something was passed to me. I was like, sure, why not? And then when I found out what I'd done, I was like, that's no good. Can't do that. But I remember being at dinner with a friend and them going, "Why can't you have dairy, or why can't you have cheese on your salad, or why are you complaining to the waitress about the fact that there's butter on something?" And I was like, I'm lactose intolerant. So like, what happens if you do this? Well, I get a stomach ache and I'll probably get congested. They're like, "Dumbass, you've done the worst Class A drugs, the worst life-ruining substances known to man, and you're complaining about a little cheese? Get a sense of perspective, idiot." And I was like, you do, okay. Yeah.
You know what's
make a
so
valid
funny
point.
about that is like you don't even come across to me as someone who would have ever done drugs. Ever.
I get that a lot because I am extraordinarily clean living now. But when it's one of those things where I want to be honest, but I also don't want to make it sound like this is okay. I went to this kind of crazy school where people did crazy things, and like from the time when I was about 13, 14 years old until the time when I was about 18, I think I stopped drinking really when I was 18 or 19 years old. And but everything under the sun, more or less, I tried at least once, and some things, it was a bit of a way of life. I remember when I first got this is a terrible thing to say, but it was the reality of the situation. When I was a teenager, got my first major label record deal. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, I'm an adult. Here I am. I'm a teenager with a tour bus and a record deal. My job is going into studios. And at the end of the month, I get a check from Polygram Records. This is pretty cool. And I remember going, all right, time to be an adult and time to budget now. I've got this much for rent, this much for cell phone bill, this much for groceries, and I want to set aside a certain amount at the end of every week to try a different drug to experiment with. Like I actually, as a teenager, I built drugs into my household budget. It was so I had a very methodical way of going through it. It was a weird thing for sure.
Interesting. So no, kids, that's not okay.
No, it's absolutely
not okay.
It's absolutely not okay. And I wonder what it would have been like if I had parents that had like a different approach to parenting. Because my parents grew up in the 60s, and they, I think, made the decision that they would be honest about the fact that they did a lot of the things that a lot of people did in the 60s. And not judge and not tell me don't do that because they knew they didn't have a leg to stand on. They were honest. But one of the things, there were two things that made me quit doing drugs. Because I don't think I ever had a problem, but I really enjoyed them. And I remember someone had taken a picture of me while I was like blitzed out of my brain, and it was a Polaroid picture, and it was lying on the counter, and I remember my dad picked this up. He's like, "Wow," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I was so gone in that one, Dad," because we were open, and he looked at the picture. He was like, "Ooh, that looks a lot like being dead." And I was just like, oh, wham. And I was just like, I am kind of going down a path. And then, we're running out of time in this segment, but I'm going to share something with you that made my dad, like, one of the few times my dad ever really reined me in and said, you can't do this. It was a life-changing experience, and it had to do with drugs and the warning he issued me.
Okay.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950. Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah.
So the other thing that my father told me that really was a life changer when it came to drugs was I've been open with him. I think my parents would rather know what I'm up to than not know what I'm up to. And they'd been open about the fact that they'd done wild and crazy things in the 60s and 70s and all of the above. And then they'd also sort of, I think, use that as leverage to gain my honesty and said, we've been open with you, you be open with us. And so we would talk about what I was getting up to. And I'm sure my parents were like, oh God, he's going to kill himself. He's going to die. This is not okay. This is what it is. And but then the band started doing really well. And we weren't just playing up and down England anymore. Like, we were going to different countries. And my father said to me, he was like, it's all really great what you've got going on right now. But here's the thing about people that are drunk or high, there's a very good chance if you've got drugs on you, you're going to forget that. And if you get on an airplane with just the tiniest amount of drugs on you and someone catches that, all this that you have going on is over. And your life is essentially over. My dad's a lawyer. He's an international lawyer. So I don't remember too many times where my dad really stuck it to me, but that was one of them. And I stopped doing drugs.
Yeah, that's the sign right there that you weren't an addict, because you can't stop that quick if you're an addict. Yeah.
No. Well, and also I wasn't really into addictive things. I smoked pot, and a couple other things, but nothing.
Isn't pot addictive?
Pot is, I think, psychologically addictive, but it was easy for me to not smoke pot because I did not enjoy pot that much.
Really?
Yeah, no. And I just kind of did it because that was what everybody did. And like, there were other party drugs that were floating around England that were very, very common at the time that I did. And oftentimes you were smoking pot to kind of like get a sense of relief from all that stuff. And, yeah, I just remember being very. Also, I'd seen some friends that really did wind up with problems, and I was looking at it, and I mean, when you look back at it in the grand scheme of things, it was a couple years of my life when I was very young and very stupid and had a lot of opportunity to be young and stupid, but it was kind of a blip on my personal radar, and I think I did it a little bit and went, I was cool. I don't need to do that anymore, and I see what this does to some other people. And I was around a lot of people who were sort of casualties of that. And this is, people say, oh, music industry or whatever, folks in bands, or what have you. But it was much more than that. It was just, I would meet everyday people that were addicted to something that would have real life consequences because of their habits. And I just would see that and see that's a very unhappy place. And I started to realize all the things that I was kind of looking for from that were available to me in other areas of life, especially music. Like music is this incredible thing. When music is good, it stops time and there is no pain. So I remember thinking, like, if I'm going to have a life in music, I get more out of music than I ever do out of any of this. So I'm going to, if this is going to hold me back, I'm going to set it all down.
When I see people addicted to drugs, I sometimes think, there, but by the grace of God go I, because I have an addictive personality, depends on what we're talking about. I've never done drugs, but, I do things that, I used to a lot more than I do now because I'm older and more mature and, you learn and you heal and things like that. But I self-medicate in like eating, eat, because that makes me feel comforted, and, when I'm trying not to think about things and, things. So I do have an addictive personality, and I also am very overindulgent. When I love something, I overindulge.
Right.
So I just thank God that I never, tried drugs or got hooked on them. And because, it's a possibility. I mean, parents can raise their children and tell them all the best advice ever, but sometimes, you can't be around your kid 24/7. You don't know what their friends may influence them to try or whatever. And people get addicted. I know that, I remember while I was in middle school. I don't think I've ever told anybody this story, actually.
Oh, I love this is what I try and do on this show. I like to get people to go, I've never told anybody this, but go on.
When I was in middle school, so a lot of years ago, I remember I was being bullied. And so I decided to every day leave the school so that I wouldn't have to go to this class where I was being bullied. And so I would literally walk off campus. I've never told my mom or dad that or anything. And I would walk off campus, and I was a kid. And I would be by myself, this young girl by myself. And I didn't really have anywhere specific to go. So I remember I would sit at the bus stop, just waiting for the time to pass so I can go back to school. And I remember this one man walked up to me. He was standing at the bus stop with me. And then he had some marijuana, and he asked me if I wanted some. And I said no, but then sometimes when I think back on that moment, I think like, what if I would have said yes? What if you know what I'm saying? And so anything like that could happen. So again, there, by the grace of God go I, I'm so happy I never got into it, because I know being addicted to something is a really hard thing.
Did the guy just leave you alone afterwards?
He did.
He just walked off? Yeah, good.
He did, thankfully, because
that's a whole other set of problems.
With,
a grown man
you have a young
girl.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So thankfully he did.
Yeah.
He did leave me alone.
I think the marijuana would have been the least of your problems.
Exactly.
In that
and I think about that too. I'm thinking, geez, Louise, what if that guy would have done something else? It's
amazing.
He's a big, strong man, and I'm this little girl. There's so much that could happen. But so again, there, but by the grace of God go I.
Can you imagine, again, going back to like parents and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
You got to let your kids out into the world. They have to, at some point, come into contact with situations where they're going to have to make decisions, and the right ones, and the wrong one could lead to something horrible. My father told me a little while ago, he was like, for the first time in my life, I'm not worried about you and your sister. I'm like, we've been grown-ups for a long time. He's like, I know. It's nice. It took a long time, but I don't go to bed worried about what could happen to you anymore, because I feel like you're both. And he's like, you've been in good places for a long time, but it took you being in good places for a long time for me to not be worried. And like the amount of letting go it must take for a parent to let their kids, go out into the world. And your mom probably never in her mind, never in a million years could have imagined this scenario. Well, Shelley's going to school. Well, Shelley's going to ditch school, hang out by a bus stop where grown men are going to offer her drugs.
Yeah, no, she never imagined that, nor did she ever know. I've never even told her that. And my mom was, both my parents did a great job raising us, but, my dad was always out, working, and my mom worked as well, but my dad was more of the life of the party, kind of like, he's a social butterfly is what my dad. I always feel like I'm a perfect mix of both of my parents. My dad, the life, the social butterfly, and then my mom is more to herself. I'm a perfect mix of both of those, and one day I'm like my dad, and one day I'm like my mom. And my mom, she did go to work, but then she spent all of her personal time with the kids, all of it, and she probably thought that, we, got away with anything like that ever happening to us, right? But it did. But, because of the right way she raised us, maybe that's why I said no when the man offered me. There is a possibility I could have said yes, but I didn't. But yeah, my mom spent a lot of time with us, and I wouldn't say my mom was overprotective. My dad was actually the overprotective one. He was the one that, especially with me, that he tried to shield me from boys and things like that. And, I was mad at him for a lot of years, but I eventually got over it. But, parents, I think that most parents do the best that they can do. And like you said, at some point, the kids are going to be out in the real world, and you can't shield them from everything, but you can do your best. Like, I don't have kids, and I often feel like, oh, God, because I'm one of those people. One of the reasons my dad was always very protective of me is because I've always been a very sensitive person. I don't think a lot of people realize that about me. I think people look at me and they see me as this confident career woman or whatever. That's my thought of how people see me. But I'm really at my core I'm a very sensitive person, not sensitive like, oh my God, everything hurts my feelings, but I feel very strongly. I care about people very strongly. And I think my dad felt like I always needed to be protected because of that, because I just try to be a good person, and I try to treat others well. But and one of those things is, I feel like if I don't know, because I'm so sensitive. I just thought, God, I'm so happy I don't have kids. As much as I love children, I love children. And I used to be a nanny and always thought I would have kids one day. I love children. Yeah. But sometimes I think, my God, I'm so happy I'm not a parent, because I just really would be horrified with what kids are subjected to in the world these days. I would be, if I were a parent, I would be horrified.
Can you imagine parenting in the digital age? Like I ask my cousin about her kids with this sometimes. I'm like, at what age do they get a cell phone? At what age do they get, Instagram and Facebook and all this
you
sort of
want
stuff?
them to have a cell phone for safety reasons, but you don't want them to have it because of other reasons.
Yeah,
it's a
makes
quagmire.
them vulnerable in the other way. Yes, it's a veritable quagmire is what it is. I remember
it's scary, man.
I remember seeing, and I was like, oh, so I love it when you see real world applications of how things are done. Like my cousin was like, oh, well, you just gotta, make sure you're communicating and make sure you're up on what they're doing and all this sort of stuff. And then like I saw one of them messing around with a phone and she walked over to him and she was like, this phone and everything on it is mine. So be careful with what you do with it. If there's something you don't want me to know about, then you better not be doing it with this phone because I'm going to know.
Now, more AD on the radio.
So yeah, we were just talking about, what parents of today have to face. And I just think, AD, if I had kids, I don't know, maybe someday I'll adopt. I don't know. But I feel like if I ever had kids, I would just be way too strict on them. I would be hovering over them and worried every time they stepped out of the,
A helicopter parent?
I think I would be. I think maybe that's why I'm not a parent, because I would just be a hot mess worrying about what they have to face every day in this cruel world. I would be a horrifying nightmare to my kids. They would be like, why are you hovering over me? I just don't know. I would just be too worried. Like my sister, my niece and my nephews are all my godchildren. Uh-huh. And I remember when they all had to start learning how to drive. And I'm like, are you sure this isn't too early? and the parents are okay with it. And I'm having a heart attack about it. My sisters, they're okay with it. I'm the one having a heart attack. So I'm like, it's probably for the best that I'm not a parent right now.
Well, we talked about this yesterday on the show, or I did, going back to food and what we eat, and milk and potato chips and all of the above. Like, I feel like food has changed so much since we were a kid. We were kids. And now, I never heard the expression genetically modified when I was a kid growing up. But now it's all people talk about. And you'll dig a little bit deeper into what it's like when things are genetically modified, and it is genuinely bad news. Pesticides, people put on, vegetables and whatnot, will eat a hole through your stomach lining in some cases, cause leaky gut, cause all sorts of things. It's a horrifying nightmare. There you are chopping up vegetables thinking you're doing the right thing, and there's a million other things that are going to kill somebody in the long run in a green pepper or something that, we grew up thinking was super healthy. And it's funny you should talk about kids and wanting to protect them, because my baby niece, Ellie, who is going to be 8 months old in a couple of weeks. She's the greatest. And it's funny because in the past when people I only eat organic, non-GMO food, I'm like, wow, you must be fun at parties. It's just I eat healthy. I eat, I eat a balanced diet. I eat right. And don't tell me about GMOs. Don't tell me about organic. But now I see this perfect little untouched angel of a life. And I start thinking about genetically modified food and what it can do to a child, especially in its early development. I start thinking about, and and now I'm sort of talking to my sister, being like, you feeding the kid organic food? You feeding the kid the right stuff? I know it's expensive. You need money? I got money. I'm not spending on any kids of mine. It becomes a real concern, parenting. It's interesting, and I don't think food was like that when we were kids. There was candy, and that was bad for you. There were artificial colors, that was bad for you. There was lead-based paint, that was bad for you. And beyond that, it was tough. But in terms of wanting to protect kids, it blows my mind thinking about it ever since this sort of young developing life became part of my life. Since I had a niece and I start thinking about all this stuff, I'm like, oh man, you can't just mash up some peas and think the kid's going to be cool.
Yeah. Unless you grow your own peas.
Unless you grow your own
Are you
peas.
telling your sister to grow her own peas?
But I think then you have to be super aware of it's such a headache. You have to be super aware of the seeds that you get because things are genetically modified at the seed levels. Yeah, no,
we can't win.
Yeah, we cannot win.
Jeez Louise.
It's really difficult.
Okay.
But like going back to potato chips on a sandwich, it's delicious. We started this conversation with you've never had it?
Okay, I don't know. I don't know. I suppose. I mean, it doesn't sound nasty. It's just, I don't know. I could have the chips on the side. Okay, I need to know details. You can't talk about a sandwich and just say a sandwich to me.
Okay.
I need to know what kind of bread it is, what kind of lettuce it is. What kind of chips are we talking about? Mayo? If so, mayo, what kind of mayo? What kind of mustard? And what kind of tomatoes? Are you doing, I don't know, what kind of tomato? I need to know all the information.
Right, I forgot.
And what are you drinking it with?
You need food described slowly.
I do.
How remiss of me.
Yes.
So,
it's like, what do they call it when people are doing like the noises?
The ASMR stuff?
Okay, so I'm ASMR but with food,
Right.
but hearing about food. That's how I am.
So do you watch those videos?
I don't. I've seen bits and pieces of them, but I don't like. They don't do anything
so funny
for me.
Because I saw him, I was like, look at this bunch of hooey. This is hooey. And I'm like, why does it feel like someone's scratching the back of my head? My whole head is tingling like crazy. And it's just this Slovakian chick going, and now I am going to tap you on the side of your head. It will be lovely and relaxing. And I'm just like, oh, my skull's vibrating.
Well, this is how I feel about
thing.
This is how I feel about people telling me about food. It does something for me.
Okay.
But you've got to really be descriptive. And
All right.
I just want to have the whole experience. I may not be eating it, but I want to know the whole culinary experience that you've just had.
All right, so this is what there's two different ways you can go with potato chips on a sandwich, and because we don't have a ton of time, I'm going to describe my favorite way of potato chips on a sandwich.
Which potato chips?
Okay, wait, no, stay with me on this one.
Okay.
This is like I stopped smoking pot when I was a kid, and I have no interest in smoking pot. But whenever I'm around potheads, one thing I do is I get very interested in their stoner recipes. Because you get stoned, you get the munchies, you come up with some weird stuff. Like one of my friends found when he was high that if you take peanut butter, put it on the cheapest white Wonder Bread there is, sprinkle cinnamon sugar over it, then ball it up into like literally about a baseball-sized piece of bread, put it in the microwave for 15 seconds and eat it. That is delicious. And you know what? He wasn't wrong. It's unbelievably delicious.
Why does it sound crazy?
Because it was one of those things where, were you high when you came up with this? Yes. Yes, I was. I was extremely high.
It's really crazy.
It is really crazy. And you know what? You get the right grain of sugar in it, and it kind of like the peanut butter sort of melts, and the grains kind of crunch against the melted peanut butter, and it's outrageously delicious. Plus, there's a little cinnamon in it. It's good stuff. So this is what my favorite is. Now, you can go a couple different ways with the bread on this one, but you want something that is soft and pliable and a little absorbent. I wouldn't go Wonder Bread. I would go Dave's Killer White Bread. You ever had that stuff?
No, never even heard of it.
Okay, it's good.
Where do you get that?
Just grocery store. But you're going to spread. You ever had peanut butter and honey?
I don't think I have. No.
Sweet baby, God, it is delicious.
Really?
Peanut butter. So, like, this is what you're going to need. You're going to need peanut butter, drizzle a little honey over the top of it. Then you take your knife and you spread it so it kind of mixed together into a peanut butter honey paste. Then you cut up a banana. Then you lay the banana out lengthways in slices on the piece of bread with a peanut butter honey paste on it.
I don't want bananas. I don't like fruit in my food.
Okay, so we can X
I like
out
fruit,
the banana.
but I don't want it in my food. Like if I get a peach cobbler or an apple pie, I like to eat the apples and then I'll eat the crust. I don't want them together.
So you don't want peanut butter, honey, and banana?
I don't want fruit in my food.
All right, so we take out the banana, and we're non-Elvis sandwich. We're just going peanut butter and honey, and then just plain ridged, ready salted Ruffles, and you put them in the sandwich.
With peanut butter?
Yep.
No,
Yeah.
AD.
Well,
I'm not. I love to eat, but I'm not that adventurous with my food. I'm not going to have peanut butter and potato chips. It's not happening.
And then it's like an extra little bit of salt on your like peanut butter is salty. It's just and then when you do that,
that's never going to happen.
It adds a wonderful
unless you get me
crunch.
high or something. Other than that, I'm not doing it.
You smush it down so all the chips are crushed up. Then you cut it in half, triangle. This is essential, and I don't know why, but you must eat it triangle ways. And then you have it with a delicious cold root beer. And those are super happy, awesome, good times.
Not a root beer with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
No, peanut butter and honey.
Well, either way,
I agree.
not root beer.
Peanut butter and honey root beer, delicious. Peanut butter jelly and root beer, horrifying nightmare.
What?
We're all out of show. Too bad your peanut butter debate can't be.
I am not. That was not a pleasant culinary experience for me.
Oh,
at all.
I hope I didn't ruin food for you.
You ruined my AMSR culinary thing.
Maybe if I described the peanut butter like this.